I've got a book review for Black Spire by Delilah Dawson. This is a book that honestly I don't want to say I wasn't looking forward to it. Recently, since Disney has been doing this Black Spire Galaxy's Edge push, right? We've had the park released. We've had Thrawn Alliance has mentioned Batuu. We've had a 5-issue run of Galaxy's Edge comics. We had Crash of Fate. We've got Black Spire. There's a short story of Myths and Fables that takes place on Black Spire. Like everything has been Black Spire, Black Spire, Black Spire, Batuu, Black Spire, Batuu. Like that's all it's been. And leading up to the book Black Spire, I was beginning to get Batuu fatigue. To the point where I didn't want to read any more about Batuu. I didn't want to know any more about it. Nothing. So I don't want to say I wasn't looking forward to this book, but I was wary of it. Before I sat down and started, I was like, oh, here we go, man. Another Black Spire novel. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. This book didn't bash you over the head with Batuu, Black Spire, Black Spire, Black Spire. This book focused more on Vi Marathi, the Resistance spy, and Archex, who is formerly known as Captain Cardinal from the Phasma novel. For those of you that don't know, Delilah Dawson also wrote the Phasma novel, which you guys know I wasn't a huge fan of. And this book is essentially a sequel to that book. There's a lot of stuff in Black Spire that is mentioned that happened in Phasma during the present day stuff. And I mean a lot of it. A lot of it. This book is seriously a direct sequel to Phasma, but it is leaps and bounds better than what I thought Phasma was. Maybe it's because I didn't care that much about Phasma as a character. And I actually liked Captain Cardinal as a character in that novel more than I did Phasma. And since he is now in this novel, his name is changed to Archex, he's with the Resistance now. Spoiler alert for those of you that don't know. If you guys haven't read it by now, you're probably not going to. He switched sides. It didn't really switch sides. He abandoned the First Order at the end of Phasma. So he is now with the Resistance, and he's with Vi Marathi. They're tasked by General Leia to go to Batuu to start a new Resistance base after the events of The Last Jedi. And she crash lands on the planet due to some weird circumstances. Loses all of her gear, has no clue how to start this Resistance base. And that's essentially what this story is her kind of learning the ropes around Black Spire Outpost and meeting the people, making friends, getting a job to help pay for everything, kind of figuring out how everything works, meeting Olga and seeing how she runs the city and everything like that. But there's a couple of really good tie-ins with this book that also happen in Crash of Fate, because Crash of Fate happens after Black Spire Outpost, but after Black Spire. But the Resistance, when they're mentioned in Crash of Fate, talks about how they're hiding in these tunnels and whatnot, and those are the tunnels that Vi finds in this story to kind of build the Resistance base in. So it's kind of a nice tie in there. This was actually a really, really fun book to read. I actually had a lot of fun reading it, and it was more of a character study between Vi and Archex. Now, Archex, I loved him as Captain Cardinal. I loved him even more as Archex. This guy is I wish I knew more about him. I hope to God we get a Captain Cardinal novel of just him. I really do. This guy is awesome. He is leaps and bounds cooler than Captain Phasma ever was or ever will be, right? So even as Archex, when he's not Cardinal anymore, he's still a badass. This guy has seen some shit. He's freaking awesome, man. And the way he interacts with some of the other Resistance members that are recruited, absolutely amazing. So definitely check this book out, mainly because this is not counting Resistance Reborn. This is the last novel before we really hit the Rise to Skywalker stuff, okay? And what I mean by that is this is the last novel that came out before Resistance Reborn. Resistance Reborn to me is the kickoff of the Rise of Skywalker. It's kind of the prelude novel to Episode 9, the way Catalyst was the prelude novel to Rogue One. But because this is kind of the last novel, in my opinion, leading up to episode 9, there's a scene at the end of this book, the epilogue, that I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I guarantee you ties directly into episode 9 to the point where I'm convinced, balls to bone, that we are going to see Batu and Black Spire Outpost in a live action via Marathi. We're going to see all of this in episode 9 at some point because of what happens in the epilogue of this book. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but this was a really, really great book to read. It really was. And I noticed something while reading it also. Normally, you know, when you see stormtroopers and rebels shooting each other with blasters, you just see the blaster bolt hit, they fall down. That's the end of it, right? I mean, there's people dying in front of you, but you really don't register that they're dying, right? This book is... it's pretty gory. It's pretty gory with how descriptive they are about where they're shooting stormtroopers at and what's left behind after they shoot them. At one point, there was even a reference, or not a reference, but there was a description of, completely out of context, Vi shoots these 2 stormtroopers in the back of the neck when they're facing away from her. Pew, pew. And she takes one of their helmets, and the helmet has got the scorch mark, and then it's got blood up the back of it. But she's killing them willy-nilly like they're nothing. And they're always aiming for the black parts of the armor, you know, in between the plastoid plates. So it's pretty cool the way they were really describing it. Matter of fact, I'm not going to tell you what the context is in because it might ruin the moment for you. But she shoots the fingers off of a stormtrooper with a blaster. Fingers off. So, and it's blood everywhere. This is a gory book, but it's actually, it took me by surprise. It's a really fun read. Definitely go check out Black Spire. And to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of, don't get me, I didn't hate anything that Delilah Dawson has written, but I wasn't a huge fan of her writing. This book turned it around for me. I'm very, very impressed with this book. I couldn't be happier with it. And like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. So that is Black Spire. I'm sorry, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire. Definitely go check it out.